So this is part 3 of 9618 Computer Science, and today we'll be doing common operations and the selection, which is if and case statements. Okay, so when it comes to common operations, we're gonna look at input and output. We're gonna look at arithmetic operations, relational operations, then there's logic operations, and string and numeric functions. Okay, and this is very easy. This is one of the most basic things that you need to know in pseudocode, so please pay attention, because these will be the building blocks of more complex problems. Okay, so how do you input values when you're using pseudocode? That's the first thing we're going to learn about. Okay, input and output. So the keyword is input, and maybe I'll put all the keywords in a different color just so it is clear. So input, and then you write your identifier. Identifier basically means your variable name, your constant name, or whatever thing you're referring to is your identifier. Okay, and if you want to output a value, then in the similar way, you're going to put output as your keyword, and then you're going to put your values here. Okay, your value is going to be here. So as an example, let's do an example. So suppose I want to input numbers. Okay, and I want to input two numbers, and I want to get the sum. Okay, I want to output the sum. So how do you do that? So this brings me to the second part that we're going to learn in common operators, which is arithmetic operations. Okay, arithmetic operations are basically plus, minus, division, multiplication, and all of that. Okay, so my question that we were going to do right now is that we want to input two numbers and we want to add them. Okay, so when it comes to arithmetic operations, we have a few that we need to know about, which is pretty common: plus, minus. For multiplication, we usually do this in maths, right? But here it's going to be a star. Okay, the star. And then instead of division, we're going to put a slash. Okay, so those are what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to have star. Yeah, so we're going to have star, the slash for division, and the star for multiplication. Okay, so let's start our question. The question was, you want to input two numbers and you want to find the sum of the two numbers and output that. Okay, so basically what you're going to do is input num1, input num2, and you can call this num1 or num2 anything that you like, but I want to call it num1 and num2. So now you have two numbers. Okay, you have num1 and you have num2, and you want to add this, right? So what are you going to do? You're simply going to say sum. Okay, I'm going to introduce a new identifier, a new variable. Sum is equal to num1 plus num2. And you might observe this arrow, and this arrow basically means assignment. Okay, so you're basically assigning the value of num1 plus 2 into the variable sum. All right, so instead of putting equal to in pseudocode, you always put an arrow. Okay, because this is more efficient and this is more understandable by all programmers. Okay, now in addition to the arithmetic operations that we just learned, there's also another one called mod. Okay, and mod basically is division again, but this time it's going to give you the remainder. Okay, so suppose we're going to do 10 mod 3. This would be equal to 1. Why? Because when you divide 10 with 3, you're going to put 3, 9, and your remainder is 1, and the mod function basically just outputs the remainder. Okay, so that's another arithmetic operation, and that's all you need to know there. Okay, and there's also one more called div, where it is integer division. So it's used to find the quotient, and it only gives the whole number, okay, without any decimal point. It gives you the integer number before the decimal point, okay. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 arithmetic operations to learn about. All right, now coming back here, so we assigned num1 plus num2 equals sum to this variable called sum, and now we want to output this, okay. So I'm simply going to say output sum. It's as simple as that. Now suppose I want to add like a message, okay. I want to give a message when I say this. So if I want to add any string is basically any sentence, okay, that is bounded by quotation marks. So I would say the sum is, and then sum is this identifier here, okay. So you're going to put everything that's a sentence in quotation marks, okay, and then your variable does not have to be in quotation marks. It has to always be outside that, okay. So your identifier or variable is going to be outside, okay. So that's it. So we're done with the first two parts of this, of the first common operations. We're done with input, we're done with output and arithmetic operations. Now moving on to relational operations. In relational operations, again, this is very easy, and I'm sure like most of you already know what I'm talking about, okay. So these are all the relational operators that you need to know about. So this means greater than, this is less than, this is greater and equal to, this is lesser and equal to, this is equal to, and this is not equal to. This is probably the only new thing that you're learning here, okay, because all of the others you've already learned that in maths, right? So the greater than and less than obviously depends on where the x value is. So if you say x is greater than 9, then you would say greater than. But if you put the 9 here and your x here, then this is smaller than, okay. So just make sure that you know which value you're comparing with what. All right, so that's it for relational operations. Next is logic operations. Now logic operations, I'm not going to go into depth here because this comes in your theory, okay. In your theory you have chapter 3 hardware, and in that you guys will cover logic gates, okay. And in logic gates you will learn about logic operations, but the three main ones you need to know are and, or, and not, okay. These are some logic truth tables that you need to learn about, and you're going to use those operators in pseudocode as well, okay. So once you go through this theory chapter you will learn about that. All right, now the last two things we need to do in the first subpart is string and numeric functions, okay. Now string and numeric functions, I'll show you a picture of all the functions, and these will be given in your insert, okay. So you don't have to memorize it, but you need to understand how it works, okay, but it's given in the insert. Okay, so here I have a paper, and it's from 2021. It's the specimen paper, and basically for every paper too you're gonna have this insert, okay. This is called the specimen insert, right? So when you look at the pages here, you're gonna have pseudocode functions, okay. These are all the functions, and it basically has an example as well so that you don't get confused, and you can refer to this during your exam, which makes your life so much easier. So these are the pseudocode operators. These are the logic operators, like I was saying. These are the pseudocode functions, then this is the pseudocode operators, and yeah, that's it. So in every insert there might be a few more or less operators than other papers, because usually they just give the operators that you actually need for that paper, for that exam, okay. So there might be like more that they've missed in this particular insert, but there might be a different set of functions in a different paper, okay. But like usually most of the main ones remain the same. All right, So yeah, that's it for our common operators. Now we're going to move on to our selection. So moving on to selection, we have two main types. Okay, we have the if statements and we have the case statements. Okay, in if statements you can either have if, then, else, or if there are two conditions, then you can have if, then, else. Oh my bad, here it's going to be end if. Okay, here it is if, then, else. You're going to have some more conditions and then end if. Okay, and you'll understand what I mean just in a minute right now. So these are the two ways you can do your if statement. Okay, if statement, two ways. Okay, we're going to look at this one first. So if condition, then you're going to do a few operations and then you're going to end your if. Okay, end if. All of these are going to be in caps. Okay, please make sure it's in caps. Then here, if condition, if the condition is met, then you do this. Otherwise you have to do this and then you can end if. Okay, here you may observe that if the condition is met, you're going to do this, but if it's not met, you're not going to do anything, you're just going to leave it. But in this case, if it's not met, you're going to do another set of instructions. Okay, so that's it for if statements. Now moving on to case statements. So in case statements also we have two types. Okay, so case statement, two versions, first version, second version. So just like the if statement, in the first version, I think I switched the places in the last one, right? But whatever. So in the first type we're going to look here, you're going to say case of identifier. Again, you're going to use your variable or whatever you're referring to. Okay, so for the case of this identifier, if it meets value 1, then you're going to do some instruction. If it meets value 2, you're going to do something. If it meets value 3, you're going to do something. Otherwise, you're just going to end the case. You're not going to do anything. So for example, for case of marks, okay, let's say case of marks, and suppose marks is like an identifier. Okay, case of marks, and marks can either be, let's say the marks can only be 5, 10, 15, 20, and it is out of 20. Okay, then if your value is 5, you have to do something. If your value is 10, you have to do something. If your value is 15, you have to do something. Okay, so this is how it works. So case of marks, marks is my identifier and these are all the values it can take. So when the user inputs his or her marks, the case statement basically goes through each of these conditions and it finds out which condition it falls under, which band it falls under. So if it was 5, then suppose we can say output grade D. If it was 10, you're gonna output grade C. If it was 15, you're gonna output grade B. Okay, and then end case. So what happens right now is that if the user enters 15, then he's gonna then the program is gonna go through each of these. Okay, it's gonna check each condition, and if the input is 15, so obviously it doesn't meet it here, right? So this is not gonna happen. It doesn't meet it here either, so this is not gonna happen. But here it does match the value, which is why it's gonna output grade B. Now in our next case, you're going to do case of value 1, you're going to do something, value 2, you're going to do something, value 3, you're going to do something, and otherwise if it doesn't meet neither 3 of these, then something else is going to happen. Okay, so what basically happens there is I'm just going to add one more line here and it's going to say otherwise. Okay, otherwise output grade A. Okay, so what does that mean? This means that if your grade, suppose the student puts 19 as the grade, if it does not meet either of these 3, then it's going to just go to this otherwise statement and output whatever it says. It's going to output grade A. okay? But the fault in this program is that even if the person inputs something like 4 out of 20, okay, it doesn't meet either of these three, right? So again, it's going to output grade A, but that's wrong, right? So what is the fix for this bug? You can basically put ranges, okay? You can say 0 to 5 is going to give this, 6 to 10 is going to give this, 11 to 15 is going to give this, and then otherwise 16 and above is going to give grade A. Okay, now this one works because now if I say 4, it's going to go into this band. If I say 19, it's going to go into this band. If I say 12, it'll go to here. If I say 8, it's going to go to here, right? Because all these numbers fall under these ranges. Okay, so you can either put ranges or you can put numbers. But the thing is, in pseudocode, you have specific syntax, you have specific formats on how you write stuff. So instead of putting that dash, right, you need to say 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15. Okay, so that's the right way to do it. So that's it for if and case statements, and that's all you all need to know. You can even do this with letters. You can say if it is A, then you do something. If it is B, you do something. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you liked the video, please like the video, and if you want more, then please subscribe, and if you have any questions, please let me know down below. Okay, thank you.